Hi, my name is Rich Harrington, and welcome to this edition of Creative Cow's Video Adrenaline series for Premiere Pro. Today, we're going to talk about the powerful features of customizing your keyboard, and we're going to look at it using Premiere Pro CS 5.5, which saw some nice improvements to how we can access our keyboard commands. Let's take a look. So to choose these, we'll go into the Premiere Pro menu and choose Keyboard Shortcuts. On a PC, you'll find that under the Edit menu. There we go. You see the Keyboard Shortcuts window comes up, and of course there are defaults for Premiere Pro, Avid, Final Cut Pro. Let's start with the Premiere Pro setting here and start to tweak it a bit. The big thing that's been added here is the ability to narrow your shortcuts by panels, tools, or applications, and even more importantly, do a search. So for example, I want to remap my clear in and out points. So I'm just going to type in the word clear, and I see clear in and clear out. Well, I'm not crazy about marking my in and outs with my right hand and having to clear them with the left hand. It's a lot of keyboard calisthenics. So I'm going to remap those to a value that makes more sense to me. I like to think of clear in and out as being Option I and Option O. On a PC, that would be Alt I or Alt O. Sort of the alternative of marking an in is clearing an in. So there we go. Just click on the value. Alt I, Alt O, or Option I and O. That works out great. I'm now going to type go to. And I've got my go to in and go to out, which is all the way again on the other side of the keyboard. Now, I subscribe to the belief that I should be able to edit with one hand on the keyboard and one hand on my mouse. I like to minimize having to reach left to right, and if you've ever had carpal tunnel syndrome, I'm sure you can understand the desire here. So let's just change this to something a little more logical, like Shift I to go to the in and Shift O to go to the out. And you see we have our change. Pretty straightforward things. Now, there's lots of other commands you might want to start to work with. Some of the things that I find useful are like the Extend Edit command, which works well for trimming. So if we come in here and we type in Extend, you see we have Extend Previous Edit to Playhead, Extend Next Edit to Playhead. Well, that's up to you. Shift E is pretty logical, but notice it's there. But anything else you want to tweak is available, so you can start to go through and look at things. Like for example, I think of sequence settings as being Command 0. Now it tells me that this is already in use for my markers, but that's okay. This is going to overwrite that. For me, I'm used to markers being an M, but you could change it again to whatever you want. It's really up to you. Now, you say, how do I know which keyboard shortcuts are already in use? Or how do I remember my keyboard shortcuts? There's a great little trick. We'll close this window and we'll hold down Shift Option Command. On a PC, that would be Shift Alt Control. And when we invoke the keyboard shortcuts, you'll see you now have the option to click Clipboard. And this will copy them to your clipboard. It's then a piece of cake to switch on over to a text editing program or maybe a spreadsheet and just paste those in. And when you do that there, you can see all of the shortcuts you have in use with the shortcut key next to them. I'll typically use a spreadsheet, which makes it much easier to sort and sift and sort of drill down to see which commands I'm using that aren't actually mapped to my keys. I find this to be really useful. I'll keep this list next to me and just start ticking off the ones I'm using a lot, and then I'll remap those so it's logical. The journey to remap your keyboard is going to take you a couple of weeks. You shouldn't do it all at once, but you should base it upon what you're actually doing on a day-to-day basis. Now, you go through all this work, you customize your keys, it's a dead end, right? No, you can move these from one system to another. Now, the location for that file is going to vary, but you're basically looking for a KYS file. Adobe Premiere Pro Custom Keys.kys. You can find this inside your system folder. On a Mac, it's going to be inside the Library and Application Support, and you'll find a similar application support file on a PC. Again, just do a search for Adobe Premiere Pro custom.kys. It's that KYS file, that's the keyboard shortcuts. So you can move this from one system to another, and that'll have all of your settings. Just keep in mind that this is all of the custom settings, not just your individual settings. So if you're in a multi-user environment, you might want to have sort of a holding pen on the desktop where people can drag in their custom settings, just have a folder for each person, and then drag it in. You don't want to change the name, you can't change the location. It really isn't designed for this, but if you want to be a power user, you can take control of those keyboard shortcuts, back them up, and move them from one system to another. For Creative Cow, my name's Rich Harrington. Thanks for checking this episode out, and be sure to head on over to creativecow.net, click on the podcast tab, and you'll find tons more of Adobe Premiere Pro training. Thanks again.